Rock and roll.
All right. Am I opening up? You open it up.
It's table time. You open it up, man.
Okay.
You good. You got it.
Okay.
You
Well,
tan
hello.
head. He's got a tan head going on, man. He's got a tan
head.
What you been doing the last couple of days?
Man, not tan head, tan head.
Tan.
That's awesome.
Not a tin head.
Oh,
a tan head.
well, maybe both. That's funny. Hey guys, welcome to Table Time.
Table talk, table time.
Table time.
Table time.
We're gonna
today.
talk on Table Time. Anyway, hey, listen, I'm Pastor Blake, and this is.
You don't even know my name.
No, I was gonna. It's terrible.
You don't even know my name.
Oh my.
Hey, I'm
goodness.
Archie. I'm here at the Central Campus, and so man, we're so glad you joined us tonight. And man, it's been a good week, and we're excited about taking this passage and working kind of down through it, I guess you can say.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. And so, last Sunday, we preached on 1 John 4, and really we talked about, hey, if you want to have a godly family, it has to start with Christ's love.
Yeah.
It has to. And so we kind of broke down on Tuesday night how to know God's love, how do we remind ourselves of God's love, but then now we're going to go to showing God's love. And I know one thing that I said often in Sunday's message was the extent to which you know God's love will be the extent to which you show God's love.
You got to know it to show it.
That's right, exactly. And so we want to have these moments with you guys to kind of really get practical on how we can, like last week or Tuesday, knowing God's love, but now we want to talk about how can we show God's love to our family specifically. And so I did want to read a passage of Scripture just to kind of ease us into this moment together. And it's a very familiar passage. And what's interesting is it's often read at weddings and then never thought about again, which I think is funny because it's not just important for your wedding. It's important for every day of your family, your marriage, your life. And so it's 1 Corinthians 13, and it is on love. But here's what Paul says. He says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. Love never ends. And the only point I wanted to make about this is everything that Paul uses to describe love after he says the word love is an action. And so love is fleshed out in our families, in our homes, predominantly, and what we're going to talk about in two ways, and Paul even alludes to this, by saying it and showing it, or with your words and with your work. And so we're going to break that down of what that means, how you can, as a family, as a husband, wife, mom, dad, even as children who are watching, retirees, maybe grandparents, how can you show Christ's love? So want to dive into to this with you, Pastor Archie, and ask how...
I'm still on those two W's, words and work.
Words and work.
I like that.
That's right. So how can you, or how have you, how do you creatively say to your family that you love them? So how do you use your words to communicate that?
You know, when Angie and I first got married, I've shared this before, that we had one counseling session with the pastor, Brother Maxie Maris. I wasn't saved. I said I was, but I wasn't. And he asked me if I loved her, and I said, oh, yeah, I love her. He said, no, you're infatuated with her. I really didn't understand what the word meant. And I said, oh, I love her. You know, we went through this 2 or 3 times. He said, you're going to grow to love her more. Okay, I didn't grasp what that meant, but I can tell you now that being married to her for over 30 years, I do love her more than I did then. I love her more than I did last week. It's a growing love. So, you know, how do we flesh that out? How do we show that in our family? One of the things that was very revolutionary to me after I became a believer in Christ, and I brought a copy of this, and I even showed this Sunday, but it's called The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. Now, for many who are watching this as a believer, oh yeah, that's old school, old book. I'm telling you, this is good stuff. It's good stuff. It's probably worldwide now. Many people have kind of gone through that study. If you can pick this up anywhere, I guess, Amazon or something, you can get that. Read through that. But when I began to see that our spouses, our children had definite love languages. So really, you know, saying it and showing it is kind of combined in these 5 love languages, okay? And it's very simple application. So he breaks this down by describing a love language. It's like putting gas in a car. And we know when a car gets on empty, if it runs out of gas, it is not going anywhere anymore. He says when your relationship, when one of the spouses do not know they're loved, then they run out of gas. They don't feel loved. And what it is, you're not putting the right gas in the car. So 5 love languages. One is words of affirmation, okay? It's verbal you need to share that to your spouse. So one of the things I learned, I grew up in a family that I love my mom and dad, and I know they love me, but my family was not real verbal on sharing that.
Yeah.
And when Angie and I started dating, the first date we went on, Blake, first date we go on, and I really liked her. It was right there out of high school, you know, and I go to pick her up, and man, she's kissing her mom and dad. They're roaming around. Her sister's there. They're saying goodbye. I love you. I love you. And I'm thinking to myself, this is the weirdest thing I've ever been in my life. That's what I thought. I thought, I'm not kidnapping this woman, man. I'm bringing her back. Whatever time you say we're going to come back. I mean, it was all that. And I remember looking at that going, I've never experienced that before. But it was those words of affirmation and words of verbally expressing your love for someone. And so I remember after we got married, you know, this is years later after college because we dated right out of high school. And she told me, she said, you're going to break the cycle in your family. And I'm like, what do you mean? She said, you're going to tell your kids you love them. I said, well, I know that's just like, so my grandpa got saved later in life. But when I tell him on the phone, I love you, his response would be, me too. He wouldn't say it because he was brought up in the Depression. I mean, you know, he just didn't verbalize that. So it's very important. I know we'll cover more of these, but one of the first ways is you have to share. People need to hear it. But now that may not be their primary love language, okay? But you've got to tell. So I know you tell your kids, and you tell Joy you love him, right?
That's right, all the time.
Yeah. So how else do you? What else do you do to kind of show it? I really want to talk more about this. But how else do you show your love or demonstrate that?
Yeah. So in regards to saying it, one of the things, and I've shared this before in multiple sermons, but one of the things that I say to my kids every night is, I love you. I'm proud of you. You're strong and beautiful. You're going to do great things, and Jesus will always love you even more than I do. I say that every single night to them, to the point where now they're just like, oh yeah, I'm proud of you. Like they're like repeating it after me over and over again. But that's one thing that I say to them every single night. Tell them I love them. Tell Joy I love them. But that's a huge part of it. Just saying I love you could revolutionize some families that are watching. Just start saying that to each other. Or anyway.
Because kids though too, they remember what you say.
Yeah, they do.
And it's not that. Sometimes they don't remember all the good things you say. They remember when you lost your temper, when you said something that you shouldn't have said. Words are very hurtful in that. And so it may be that someone just in showing this love, so you got to know God's love, show God's love. Okay, so if you experience that forgiveness of the Lord and experience His grace and mercy and gratitude shapes your attitude and all this stuff, then you're not going to show it. We have some problems in our families because, man, the leaders are not born again. So, so it's verbally, and so they need to hear that, even if they get, oh yeah, he told me. No, they need to continue to hear that.
And
so,
the second thing that I do often is notes, and I love notes.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. But
not
love notes. I love notes. I guess they are kind of love notes to my family, but notes. My kids love notes right now. They are all the time writing me little notes and stuff, and so you will oftentimes, people will, talking about the love languages too, people will do what they actually want to receive.
That's exactly
so if you have a spouse or a family member that's constantly telling you, man, you're doing a great job, man, you're doing this, what they're ultimately saying is not only you're doing a great job, but they're also saying, I want to hear that from you. I want to hear words or acts of service or whatever that is. They want that. That's how they receive love. And so my kids love notes, and so they get a lot of note card notes, and they
and you know, Blake, sometimes that's good, okay, because you're teaching those kids, but you not only you're teaching them, but you're showing them. You're demonstrated that. So you may teach what you know, but you basically do what you are. Okay, and so you may teach that to them. They're going to watch you. So you can say, hey, you need to write a note to your mama. But if you're not doing that, then they're not going to pick that up. Pick that up either. So that's interesting. In that, so you like notes. I need to start dropping you notes.
If you
would
could
feel
just send
encouraged.
me love notes, I would really.
I'm not sending you love notes. What's wrong with you, man?
That'd be awesome. Well, hey, words are powerful. That's a great truth. And so now let's go to work. So how do you show your family, intentionally, creatively show your family, or maybe have shown your family in the past? How do you show them that you love them?
Well, I think that it's very important, and you say this also too, but you really got to study your family to kind of know them And as a leader, whether you're a single mom, single dad, or grandma, grandpa, whoever you are, or even a teenager who's watching this, you could study your mom and dad and figure out what their love language is. Hey, you want to have a great relationship with your mom and dad? Kind of study them, speak their love language.
There you go.
Okay? And that's a work
Yeah.
because it takes to do that. So like you said, you like receiving notes. One of the love languages is receiving gifts. Okay? Now that doesn't really do much for me. I like gifts. We like stuff. If Bob wanted to get me a new fishing lure, I'd receive that.
I've received
You
that
know,
in the
I
Lord.
receive it in the Lord, but hey, that's not my language. But the person who's always giving a small gift, we're not talking about big stuff, but maybe it's a card or maybe it's a candy bar or something like that, then their love language is one of gifts. And so when you begin to study your kids, if you give them something, man, I love you, you can tell them, but I want to give this to you. It's not anything big and it's not a special event. Man, when they just like, whoa, that you're speaking their language, you're putting gas in the car. So you could tell them, so let's use Joy, for instance. If Joy's love language, in a moment I'm going to ask you what her love language is, okay? But if her love language
I
was...
appreciate that.
I am. So you don't do that to me. You just throw it at me. I'm giving you time to process.
Time to process. That's
Yeah.
right.
So, but if her love language was gifts, and you studied her, you could tell her you love her. She'd appreciate that. But how she really would know she was loved, how her fuel tank would be filled up with love was just a little gift. Not major money, just a card or anything. Okay. So that, when you talk about studying, talk about the love languages, so studying a person, that's the work. It's kind of how you flesh that out. Yeah. So really learning what your children's love language is, and then doing that. Okay, so one would be receiving gifts. So it's verbal affirmation, receiving gifts. Acts of service is another one. Okay, so when you serve someone, when you serve them, it shows them. I mentioned this Sunday that Angie is a neat fanatic. Okay, you put a glass down, you better hang on to it because it's not going to sit there long.
She's going to get it.
She wants everything in place. She hates when I come in and unload my pockets. I've got a special place. I'm supposed to put all my stuff. And but when you do something for her that is like even building a fence at the house or putting a fence in the backyard, she's like, man, I feel loved. You're doing this for me. I put some blinds up the other day, and she's like, yeah, that's my man right there.
That's right.
I'm like putting blinds up in the window. So that's a way of doing it. So I've given you kind of a little bit of forte there about the question. So what do you believe your wife's love language is?
So it's I hope I don't get in trouble, but hers is for sure acts of service.
Okay.
And quality time.
Oh yeah.
So
that's another. You may want to talk about quality time. That's another love language is quality time.
So Joy's is definitely acts of service. She's the same way. Matter of fact, me and a buddy of mine came over and helped me mulch. We kept our distance.
Oh yeah.
But we mulched, and she was just like, the next morning she came out there and was sitting on her back porch and looking at the mulch, and she was just like,
yeah.
This just looks so good. And I was like, you're talking about the mulch right here? Like this looks good. But that's her. It's acts of service because she's the same way. She's got to keep everything together. But then secondly, and you had mentioned quality time. Yeah. She loves sitting on the couch and just talking. Or we are, and I've talked about this often, we love to walk, we love to hike. That is so great. Our kids love it, family loves it. And so we spend time together that way. And we love, man, that's a date night for us. If we can go and just walk together and talk and not be interrupted, that's really fun.
For someone that their love language is not quality time. God has a sense of humor because a lot of times what he does in a marriage is he puts two people together who do not have the same love language.
Right.
Okay? And so if you're a type A personality that you think you're right and you think everybody's just like you, most of the time, if yours is acts of service, you think hers is acts of service, that's what you do. You speak your language to her, but it's not her language.
Right.
And so he has a sense of humor of doing that. So quality time, you do not have to spend time with me whatsoever. Okay? You're probably like, yeah! But now, if Angie's is quality time, which sometimes you kind of have a mixture of that. Man, you got to spend that time, and that's the work, okay? But that's how that person knows that you love them when you take time. It's not your language. It's like speaking a foreign language. But when you sit down, you concentrate, just spend time. And it's not anything. It's just being together. There's one other love language that we need to talk about. It's called physical touch, okay? And so some people ask me, well, Archie, what is your love language? Okay, mine it's verbal. It is words of affirmation. I like to hear it, but it's physical touch. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, for like, when I'm getting ready to preach, Angie will hold my hand. So a lot of times we're singing, worshiping together. Now we've been doing online services and that, but in a normal setting in church, she holds my hands. Well, that just it makes me know that she loves me. You know, if I'm in a crowd somewhere and she just has her hand on my shoulder, that's a physical touch. That speaks to me. Okay, that is my love language. You know, in that, and so that is you got words, okay, which is part of this, but it's also the work. So you study in your children. What do you think your children's love languages are? I mean, and I know they're younger,
Yeah.
and it's kind of moving and changing. But what do you think it will be probably when they become a teenager? What do you think their love language is?
I think my son's gonna be quality time. He already loves fishing with me. He
Oh,
loves
yeah.
hiking. He loves playing. We were out in the backyard yesterday, just
Yeah.
throwing him softballs.
Yeah.
He's just the soft softballs.
Yeah, yeah, smack.
Knock him out.
Yeah, that wouldn't go well.
And I think my daughter's is quality time as well. She loves
Yeah.
what she calls daddy-daughter talks.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
she just loves to sit
Oh, that's
and
good.
talk that quality time. So that's
That's awesome.
that's
Well, I
as
think
well.
too, during this time of the coronavirus and what's going on, is that a lot of times the friction that people may experience at home, because I mentioned this Sunday too, but you go online and start searching out families coronavirus, there's all kinds of stuff
Yep.
that comes up. There's been so much friction and fractured families. You just article after article after article. And a lot of it is, again, what's happened is this thing has thrown us together, which we're not used to that in our culture because
Yeah.
everybody's spread out, everybody's so busy. So the good that can come out of that, and there is good that's coming out of families becoming closer together and bonding together. But
Yeah.
you need to understand each other's love language. It could change your whole night to night.
Yeah.
Just sit there and think about these five, and Google this, you'll find it online. The 5 languages and figure out who is what and begin to practice that
Yeah.
because you got to fight for your family, man. You know,
Yeah,
and
we
this is a way to do that. It's a way to show that love. And then also too, I would encourage you. Focus on the Family has some good stuff online. I use one of these on Sundays. It's called Grace, Showing Grace. And so Grace, G, begin with gratitude. R, resist emotion. So a lot of emotions going on in the house. A, adjust your thinking. So Angie mentioned, we say this sometimes, like, you're nerving me right now. So nerving means you're annoying me. You're getting on my nerves. And so even Sunday, Angie had a lot of her friends going, hey, my husband's nerving me right now. But when you adjust your thinking, the A out of grace is to realize sometimes people are nerving you and it's not intentional, especially in close settings. C, communicate kindly. And E is express genuine appreciation. So you can go online, focus on the family. You can look through some of the articles I have, but grace, showing grace while you're in this time of COVID-19. So just want to share
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. You know, some of the ways that that our family fleshes out, just really quickly, showing His love is number one, praying. My
Oh, yeah.
wife has a prayer notebook this thick of
That's
just things
good.
that she's
Yeah.
been praying for her kids, and so man,
Yeah.
you show that through praying.
Mm.
You show it through playing. I think a lot of men discredit how important play is for their family, not just for their kids, but just
Yeah.
for the whole family, for the wife,
Yeah.
and so. Find ways during the midst of all this to play. Stop stressing about so much and just
Yeah.
break away for moments. Go fishing, go hiking, play ball, do something, but just play. That makes massive imprints on your family. Even if you're a grandparent, maybe figure out ways to.
Yeah.
If you're not quarantined from your grandkids,
Yeah.
play with them. And then also, this kind of goes to words, but it's also actions. But this has been super helpful for us, just in a moment of honest transparency, is admitting that you're wrong and asking for forgiveness. I think that one piece in regards to showing Christ's love, that one piece could really set a lot of couples free.
Yeah.
It's just saying, hey, I've been wrong about this, or I've been wrong about
Yeah.
that, and I need to ask for your forgiveness. And that's a part of showing Christ's love. And what I love about this, and we're going to jump to the last question, but what I love about the 5 love languages and this whole discussion we've had is that Jesus shows all of those to
Yeah.
us. Every single one. I think Gary Chapman even talks about
Yeah.
that, but Christ shows us all of those. So the motivation is not Gary Chapman in his book, which is good. This is like the
Yeah.
tool by which we receive it. But ultimately, that motivation is from Christ, that He shows us all of those things. The words of affirmation, the
Yeah.
quality time, all of those things He shows. And so, well, this is I'm excited to ask you this question. And I did tell you what we were going to ask you before, but
Really?
how does really?
Yeah.
How does your family show you that they love you. So what are ways that you receive? And I know you kind of
Yeah.
talked about the quality time, or excuse me, the physical touch and those things. But how does your family show you, or growing up, how did they show you that you were
Yeah,
loved?
you know, because my kids are grown and they've been gone since high school. So, I mean, we've pretty well been empty nesters a long time. But, and to do this now, I mean, I have a great relationship with my two sons. Really, a lot of it's verbal, you know, in that. But it's also, for a man, it's respect, you know, that I respect what you do, whether it's actually said, but it's just demonstrated. You know, because a lot of times as pastors, I mean, we don't sit around and going, hey, nobody understands what we go through or do or whatever. And so we don't sit around and think about stuff like that all the time. But it is good and whatever. And so Angie does this, boys, just in respect for me, like, hey, man, we appreciate what you do. We don't understand all that you have to do or go through, but we love you. We care for you. It's that. And now I say this, that gifts are not my love language, you know. But, man, as you get older, your birthday, you know, you love it when, like, because Angie's always like, she asked me, like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, I think I want a new fishing pole, you know, and things like that. Yeah. So it's really good when, in fact, Ty told me this the other day. He said, your birthday present just came in. Okay, my birthday's back in March. I'm like, yeah. He said, well, you know, the shipping stuff and the trucking's been back. But when he told me what it was, I'm like, yeah, okay, because it is something I can use all the time. So, I mean, those are just things my family, my kids have shown me, even as adult, you know, but then just having adult conversations with your boys is, I love that, you know, because we've moved from, you know, they call me the master commander sometimes. I guess I moved from the master commander to friendship, and that's really a sweet time in my life. And so what about you? How does your family demonstrate that to you?
Yeah, so Joy and I talked about this, and we both receive love the same way. When I asked her this question, and I had already written down my answer, and it was the same thing, but giving time away, guilt-free.
Yeah.
And so for Joy, I was even on the phone with her earlier, and I said, hey, when I get back home, why don't you go for a walk? She's got some things she's processing and praying through, and I said, I'll take the kids, you go for a walk. And it's time away, guilt-free. What I mean by guilt-free is she doesn't come back, and then I say, well, here they are. You've been walking out the whole time and just getting with Jesus.
Man,
while
that's
I've been,
a good point.
You know, it's time away. And mine the same way. It's hey, Blake, why don't you go fishing for an hour, you know, or why don't you go do this? And
why don't you take Archie with you fishing for an hour?
You have mentioned fishing 3 times.
I'm excited about it.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
That's awesome. But
I haven't been asked by you yet, but I don't want to go with you anyway. So okay,
keep your distance.
Yeah.
That's true. But that's one. That's a great way for you families to show is maybe you wives to look at the husbands, or husbands look at your wives, or whatever your family. Maybe you've got older kids, you know, they're teenagers, and y'all just look at mom and dad right now and say, hey, why don't y'all just go on a walk or go? We want to set up a date night for y'all. We're gonna get out of your way. We're gonna cook the meal, and we just want y'all to connect and spend time together. It's a great way, giving time away guilt free. And then also notes. I love notes. I talked about that earlier, but I love notes.
You brought that up 2 or 3 times.
I do. I like notes. I appreciate them and grateful for them and words too. I think Joy, just communicating. Hey, I love you. I respect you. She's got a saying that she says oftentimes, because I'll get worked up and frantic and all in my head and about different things, and she'll just say, Blake, I'm on your team. We got this. I'm on your team. We got this. And so that always
can I tell you something Angie shared with me even last? She looked at me, she grabbed me by my shirt and pulled me close. And she looked up at me, she said, slow down. Everything's gonna be okay. And then she kissed me, and then she went, you know, and got on a lawnmower, basically. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
You know,
that's
like,
awesome.
yes, ma'am.
Got
you
it.
know, so anyway.
No, that's cool. But those are ways that they show me. And
hey, I tell you what, I think it's been some great practical advice for folks. I think what you said, man, guilt-free stuff. I mean, you know, demonstrate, show love, and also, well, I've done this for you, now you do this for me. And that's not what the Lord did for us.
Well, that's conditional love.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not what Christ gives to us.
Right. That's exactly right. And so, hey, there may be some of you out there too, man, you're struggling, you're hurting, you're in pain. Maybe you sense your separation from Christ. Hey, He loves us. He died on the cross. He proved that for us. I mean, you can receive Him. You can call upon Him. You can ask Him to save you. Come to Him in repentance and faith, turning away and turning to Him. He'll save you. The Bible tells us that. Man, again, you got to know His love to show His love.
That's right.
And it's not knowing about him, it's in a relationship with him. And the Lord, the Holy Spirit will work through you to demonstrate that and show that. So, man, I know, hey, I know, Speaker Blake, man, we love you, we're for you. Any way we can help you, we want to do that. And, hey, man, we're excited about this coming Sunday, right?
Yep.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
right.
because we're going to talk fighting for your family with truth.
Truth. That's
yeah,
right.
and so it's a great passage of Scripture and very practical on that also.
Yep.
Okay?
We're excited. Hey, we
Awesome.
love these. We love interacting with you guys. Grateful for table time. Table time! Was that
Oh, me.
close to Bob?
I think you're Bob Snell.
Table time!
I knew that was
awesome.
coming. Bob
Yes.
Snell Jr.
Yes,
is
that's
who you
right.
are.
That's right. You're just
I
surrounded.
cannot get away.
That's right. You're just surrounded by
Hey,
us.
okay, one thing real quick too. Bob get a kick out of this. So I met a guy the other day I'd never met. And I said, hey, man, he's an older guy. And I said, man, I'm Archie. I'm so glad to meet you. He looked at me and said, where's your buddy, Bob?
That's awesome.
I said, I don't
That's
know.
awesome. That's good. That's good.
So anyway, yeah.
Hey, y'all have an awesome evening.
Yeah.
We love you. See you Sunday.